Hard to believe that it was 20 years ago that Porsche introduced a car that wasn't a sports car. Now back then Porsche had a bit of a problem because all it did produce was sports cars. And it knew that at some point its customers' lives may change. They may get married, they may have children, they may buy a dog or whatever it was. And of course they would need something more practical. So of course they would have to sell their sports cars and buy that. Then there was the ones that maybe could afford to keep the sports cars, but then they had to buy something else as well as, which meant those customers were dividing their brand loyalty between two different companies. And that was a strategy that Porsche weren't willing to risk. So what was there to do but to develop their own large practical car? And so the Cayenne was born. Purists would throw their hands up in absolute rage, but of course this wasn't the first time that Porsche had done something a bit radical. Bear in mind in the 1970s, the 924 used a Volkswagen van engine originally, and they tried to replace the 911 in the late 70s with the front-engined 928. And then of course there was the Boxster, or as people used to refer to it as, the poor man's Porsche. And then if the purists hadn't had enough of all this, the 911 went from air-cooled to water-cooled. But it was the Cayenne that probably proved the biggest shock of them all. After all, this was a large, monstrously fast SUV, but with a Porsche badge on the front. But here we are 20 years later, and it has proved quite a shrewd move by the company because it's the biggest selling model. It outsells their sports car range by quite a considerable margin. And not only has it appealed to Porsche customers, but it's brought new people into the Porsche brand, people who may not have considered a sports car from Porsche before. So there's no doubt that the Cayenne has done its job. But here we are with the new Cayenne. And the car's gone through 3 generations in that 20 years, and very, very soon it's going to go probably fully electric. But before it does, Porsche have given it a little tweak, a little tuck and a little nip here and there. And this is what we have here. Welcome to this week's new car review. Welcome to the Porsche Cayenne eHybrid. And as if it needs to be said, please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the house of cars. Now, before I start on this week's road test review of the Cayenne eHybrid, would you do me a favour, because this is quite a new channel and your support is quite important to me. Could you make sure you're subscribed, please? Just do it down there. Once you've done that, press the wee bell button, because then you get notified when my next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you do enjoy it, then make sure you give it a wee thumbs up, and of course don't forget, leave me your comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on the cars that I review, such as Porsche's Cayenne eHybrid, and of course on the House of Cars channel on the whole. Hard to believe, 20 years that the Cayenne's been gracing Porsche showrooms, but that's the fact of it, isn't it? You know, and as I say, it's become a huge big seller for the brand. And not only that, because of the success of the Cayenne, then obviously we've seen cars such as the Macan come out. It's smaller SUV that sits below this in the range. Now, unlike the Macan, which is going fully electric this time, the Cayenne isn't quite there yet. It will be going fully electric at some point in the future. And this isn't so much of a new model as a very heavily revised car. And they've tweaked some of the engines and removed things around. So we've now got something pretty much for everyone. We've got V6s, we've got V8s, we've got turbos, we've got electrification in the hybrids, the plug-in hybrids, we've got full fat SUVs, we've even got stylish coupes. I'll put the stylish in inverted commas until you decide if you like the styling of it or not, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of choice within the Cayenne range, so there should be something in here for everyone. There's big powerful petrol for the petrol heads, and of course there's frugal running and downsizing for those of us who live in this brave new world. But is it enough? And is it enough that Porsche have done to keep the Cayenne going that little bit longer until electrification takes over? Time to find out. But before I start the road test, let's take a look at the main points about the new Porsche Cayenne. Well, in essence, this is a heavily revised version of the 3rd generation E3 Cayenne, and it's available in both SUV and coupe body styles, the latter as we have here. You have a choice of V6, V8 and turbocharged engines, as well as the plug-in hybrids within those choices. You also have the choice of the standard car, the S, the GTS and Turbo, all of which, apart from the GTS, can be had as plug-in hybrids. And prices for the Cayenne Coupe range in the UK start from just over £80,000 to just under £165,000, depending on the model. But my question is this: can the Cayenne really cover all the bases? In other words, can it be fast and frugal? Can it be sporty and sensible? And if so, is this basic one, and I say that cautiously for a car costing over £92,000, really tick all of the boxes? Well, let's put it through the House of Cars road test review and find out. Now, I don't think I'm alone in probably saying that the Cayenne was Porsche's, well, it wasn't the best styling effort, let's just say that. The original car, what they tried to do was make a big, large SUV look like a sports car at the front, and it had the 911's kind of weird fried egg headlamp sort of like shape on it. If you remember the 996 headlamps, it had those kind of grafted in the front. It was never, okay. Over the years, things have got better, and of course this latest generation, which as I say is quite a heavily revised facelift rather than a completely new model, and they have kind of tried to sort of like ape what they've done with the smaller Macan, in other words reduce the visual bulk of the car at the front. I think it's worked quite well. It's quite a bit more kind of pointy, a bit more aggressive looking at the front, but aggressive in a good way rather than the kind of raw in your face kind of thing. These new headlamps here with the sort of like the singular lamp there and then the kind of 4 elements around it, which is very much a Porsche signature now. These have got 32,000 pixels in each lamp, and they're sort of like a high density LED matrix. So in other words, they're designed so that they don't dazzle oncoming road users, but still able to illuminate sort of like the lane that you're in as well. Brilliant headlamps, have to say. And Porsche is becoming quite synonymous with safety. There's a huge amount of safety tech on the car as well, and that's one of the more kind of basic things that you can have, just being able to see at night. So yeah, very good. Turn indicators down here. And a lot of cooling for the car. Now obviously there's different engines that are going to be available in the car. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But basically they're going to need a lot of airflow through them, and because they've obviously got some batteries in them as well, they're going to need to have some cooling as well. So that's all taken care of down here. So you get a little bit of safety tech with a little forward facing camera there and a low set number plate down there. The Porsche shield just nicely sort of like sunken into the bonnet there. I do like the way that Porsche do that. They just sink the kind of badges into the bonnets. Nice strong lines coming down the sort of like centre of the bonnet and from the wings as well. So yeah, it's a much more palatable looking car now. And I must say this colour is crayon, and I really do like it on the Cayenne. I think this looks really, really nice. And what I really like about this car is it doesn't have black wheels. So well done Porsche UK, thanks for speccing it sensibly. Now, talking of wheels, the range starts with 20-inch wheels and can go up to as much as 22s. These are 21s. I think these are called the exclusive Cayenne design wheels on these. And I say I like the fact that they're not black or something like that against this. They're nice, that kind of polished aluminium finish. I do like those nicely. Interestingly, and there's a Range Rover Sport part just over there, which another one. Have you noticed that the kind of premium manufacturers are moving away from sort of like putting sort of like, you know, plastic kind of body cladding on SUVs? Now Porsche never really have with the Cayenne, and it now seems to be sort of like more kind of volume manufacturers, what they're doing these kind of crossover styles. They get the big plastic cladding, but big proper 4x4s, as I say, like that Range Rover Sport over here in the Cayenne, they don't get it at all. I find that quite interesting. I've only just noticed it recently. You know, you look at things like Aston Martin DBX, Lamborghini Urus, that type of thing. None of them have that big plastic cladding on them, you know, sort of like contrast cladding. Probably shows you that most people aren't going to be taking them off-road. But that's not to say that you can't, because the Cayenne is quite a capable car when the going gets a bit tough. Not that most people are going to do it, but yeah, anyway, there we go. eHybrid badge on this one, you can see it up there. You get your nice kind of big door mirrors that sit kind of proud of the doors. They've got the turn indicators in there and more tech because you get the cameras there. Now, two body styles available in the Cayenne. You get the full-size SUV or this, which is the coupe. Now, I'm not a massive lover of coupe SUVs, despite the fact that I actually run one as my everyday car. And I'm still kind of getting used to the whole fact of why would you buy something as practical as an SUV and then make it impractical by buying the coupe version. But there you go. I'm going to leave it for you guys to decide. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But what I will say with the Cayenne, I would say it's probably one of the better looking ones in terms of the, you know, the style of it, how Porsche have done it. I like this kind of sort of like separate kind of big spoiler you get at the roof here, this kind of bridge spoiler that goes across. And then there's also this separate one here that extends up above 56 miles an hour to improve stability and airflow. I think that comes up by about 135 millimeters. But as I say, I have to say that this coupe version of the Cayenne is much better looking than, say, something like the BMW X6 or the Mercedes GLE Coupe, that type of thing. Although the Audi SQ8 is quite a nice looking car, in fairness. But yeah, I think it's a good looking thing. Anyway, there we go, I'm blethering now. Big chunky door handles, body cladding right down at the bottom there, so again there's no big plastic bit halfway on the door. The other nice thing is, look, your door goes right to the bottom of the sill, so when you open it, or pretty much nearly to it, so when you open it and you're getting in, you're not getting muddy trousers or skirt or whatever and things like that, so that's quite decent. There's relatively good access in as well. The doors open quite wide as well, so again, if you have limited mobility or you're trying to manhandle children into the car, they've got good big doors on them. Of course, that could be a problem in a tight car parking space with a car as big as this, but there we go. But on the whole, handsome looking thing, and as I say, I'll leave it for you to decide whether you would have the full-size SUV, which I personally would, or whether you think the coupe is a little bit better. Let me know in the thoughts in the comments below. Now, we move around the back. You have your charging port, your Type 2 charging port on this, sort of like the near side, back here for powering up the battery. On the other side is your petrol cap. And then round the back of the car, we've got this very new kind of age Porsche, sort of like thin light strip. The car reminds me an awful lot of the new Taycan. You know, Porsche's electric sportsline, which I absolutely love. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in knowing all about electric cars, then you need to be over on Auto EV. That's my other YouTube channel where we just cover electric cars. We don't even bother with hybrids, we just do electric cars over there. So check that if you want. If you want to see a review of the Taycan, I'll pop a link up above, but that's where you'll find reviews on EVs. Right, okay, what was I saying? Yeah, Taycan is very kind of Taycan-like, I think, at the back, and the new 911's the same, got that thin kind of light strip across the back. And of course you get the big 3D Porsche script across the back, which is lovely. Badge there, which of course will be a deletable option. I quite like having it, I don't mind the fact it says Cayenne there. And this is this kind of coupe-like back I was telling you about. Now, of course, the downside with it is there's no rear wiper. It's designed that airflow will come out and kind of clear the rear screen. Look, Porsche aren't alone in doing this, but I'm not a big lover of that. I'd rather have a rear wiper on a car. You could tuck one nice and neatly up there just to give a wipe of the screen when it's needed. But there you go. This is the spoiler bit I was telling you about here. So just this black kind of section at the bottom of the window there, this kind of lifts up and out by sort of like 135 millimeters at speeds above 56 miles an hour. Don't try 156, trying to change that. 56 miles an hour. That will come out, and that improves airflow and stability and keeps this sort of like the rear end kind of more planted. Yeah, 156. Mind, it will do that, mind. It's quite a quick car, this. Number plate's been moved. Just now down at the bottom there. I think it used to be on the tailgate. And just underneath here, of course, you get a little reverse camera with a washer nozzle as well. So well done, Porsche. You know, that's quite handy as well, being able to clear the camera. And of course, your usual kind of parking sensors as well, and two big exposed exhaust pipes. Right, okay, we're not going to go on too much further about this. They haven't done a huge amount to the styling of the Cayenne over the last car. They've tweaked it here, and a wee nip here and a wee tuck there. But I still think it's quite a handsome looking car. Now, as I say, I'm not a lover of these coupe SUVs. I'm just not. But as I say, I think this is probably the best looking one in its class. So if you were into that, this is the one I think looks best. I would personally prefer the full-size SUV, because I always think, what's the point in buying a practical car to make it then impractical? But maybe that's just me. And if it is, what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Coupe or big SUV? Let me know. Right, practicality now. Electric tailgate. Now, this is going to depend on model here, okay? Because the eHybrid model doesn't get the adjustable boot floor. So I think the standard car is over 600 litres. This is just under, I think it's 550 litres, something like that you get with the eHybrid model, because you don't have that adjustable boot floor, okay? Now, I've got two big suitcases in here. So I've got large and a kind of medium size. The downside is, however, with that boot floor not be able to adjust, you can't have them that way, you see? Because it doesn't go in there. It would if the boot floor was that little bit lower, which means that you can't kind of stack four along there. There's a space for it if you could. You'd certainly get sort of like four smaller suitcases than that along there, as you can see. So if you had four carry-ons, for instance, no problem at all. Or, you know, you could probably get a couple of carry-ons in there as well, but it's maybe not ideal for such a large car. And that's what I mean about the impracticality of the coupe bit, because obviously it comes down here, whereas the SUV would be a mount further out. You've also got this big bag here. Okay, now that is for your kind of home charger that works off the 3-pin plug. This is a huge bag for something like that, but you're probably going to leave that at home. So, you know, I can't be too thingy about that. The fact that you probably would just leave that at home anyway. So that's what that big bag there is. There is a small amount of underfloor storage for the Type 2 cable. So again, for plugging into public chargers or for your home wall box. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but this review is brought to you in kind sponsorship by Anderson EV. And their home wall box chargers have the cable, which actually is the only one. We have the cable that goes into the unit. It actually wraps around and stores inside the unit as well. And they've got motion sensing lights on them as well. They're really stylish, so check those guys out because they're brilliant. Right, what else have you got? Well, you've got a 40-20-40 split rear seat, which is good because obviously if you've got rear passengers, you need to maybe carry a longer load. Been to the DIY store or whatever like that, or you're going skiing or whatever, you've got, I don't know, fishing rods or whatever, you can knock down that centre section. At least you can still get 2 rear passengers plus, you know, sort of like a carry through as well. The other thing with the car in being practical is you've got as well, he says, if I get the right button here, a deployable tow bar with the car, because the car will actually, there we go, it's going to hopefully pop out any second now. There we go. That's popping out nicely there for us now. Gosh, it takes its time. Ta-da! The car will tow a brake trailer up to 3,500 kilos, so it's quite practical, you know, from that point of view as well. And also as well, you can have the car with a roof transportation system. So if you're carrying things like roof box, bike racks, roof tents, which also are quite a popular thing these days, so you can also have that on the car as well. So there is an element of practicality with the car, but as I say, just be aware of that with the hybrid model. The boot floor is not adjustable, and as I say, it's quite shallow. So although the volume's there, it is quite shallow from here to there. And again, another reason why the coupe isn't quite as practical as the full-size SUV model. Now, back to the accommodation. Well, it's huge. It's absolutely vast. That's my driving position. And I've got loads of space back here. And of course, you don't have, whilst it does have a battery in here, obviously, but it's more, you don't have sort of like some of the problems you get with some EVs where the floor is really pushed up. So you don't sit kind of like that, you know. There's loads of lounging space back here. It's absolutely huge. It is shaped for 2, however. There is this storage kind of thing in the middle here. I think that's a deletable option, or you can have it as a 5-seat, but you know, a standard the coupe I think is 4 seats. So just be aware of that as well, this kind of sort of storage tray. But in fairness, would you have the 5-seat? Well, there's a big transmission tunnel there, so anybody sat there is going to have their legs either side of that. So that's a bit of a problem. So you might just decide actually the 4-seat one with storage for the kids in the back works better for you. But there is certainly, as I say, bags of storage here. Sorry, bags of room back here. God, I'm getting my words mixed up today. Fixed panoramic sunroof, standard. So you get that. Floods in the car with lights. Even a dark interior car like this, which is all kind of black inside. You know, it doesn't feel too oppressive because obviously you've got the fixed panoramic sunroof. There is a blind that obviously goes across it, obviously, which will make you feel a bit more closed in, but there you go. Right, storage. There we go. Armrest, 2 cup holders. You've got those there. What are they like for water bottles? Will they take a water bottle? Yeah, no problem there at all. I'll do fine. Right, that's great. Isofix points, superb, easy to get to behind the plastic covers. And there's more than enough space, as I say, for instance, if you had one of those really big kind of bulky ones that, you know, that swivel round. So for loading kids in and out, and then for moving the seat, you've got loads of space. Door bins, yep, door bins down the side, and they're rubber lined on the bottom and carpeted up the side. Now, we'll talk about the quality when we go up front, but that's one of the things I really like about Porsche, and I just really, it stands a good manufacturer when they do little details like that. You know, things like, you know, putting rubber trays in the bottom of this, like the door bins, so things don't rattle around and they've been lined with carpet, like that. Netted matte pockets on the backs of the front seats. And that's really your lot. There's a couple of USB-C charging ports there. There's a little storage tray in there for a packet of Polar Mints, and another one there. Again, you know, lined with rubber. Well done. Just the things don't sort of like slide around and scratch the plastic on it. But yeah, the main point about the back seat is it is huge. Now, as I say, I'm not a particularly tall man. I'm only 5'8". I think if you were 6 foot and you were sitting back here, while your leg room would be fine, your headroom might be a bit of a problem, and again it's because of the coupe. So just bear that in mind. If you do have sort of like taller children, you know, if you've got sort of like teenagers who are sort of like, you know, well above the kind of 6 foot mark, that might be a bit of a problem if they still want to come out with mum and dad. There you go. But it's good, it's fine back here. Now, whilst, as I say, the styling on the outside has received sort of like a little just nip and tuck here and there, it's the interior that's received a massive change, and all the better for it, I think. Not that there was much wrong with the old car, in fairness, but this one is really, really, I think it's been well designed, this interior, and I do like it. Screens is the big thing here. Although there are a lot of still physical buttons, which I'll talk about as we go through it. But the main point here is now this sort of like driver information display, your main sort of like instrument binnacle, is now a screen, and it's very much modelled on the Taycan. So it's this curved screen, there's no cowl over the top of it, and you can configure it. So at the moment I've got it set up like a traditional kind of almost like 5-dial Porsche gauge cluster, you know, where you've got temperature, G-force, the speed, rev, trip computer, and then temperature gauge on that side. But you can change it to see how you want it. So for instance, you can move it so that it is, if I get the buttons right, there you go, you can have it sort of like just 3 dials. You can have it so that you've got the navigation in the center here with just a couple of dials and the speedo just at the top. You can change it completely so the full width navigation is there. I think the last one you can, yeah, there you go, the last one is just a really simple speedo. That's it. You still get your things at the bottom like your mileage, your clock, and your, you know, sort of like your trip meter in terms of your range that's available, and obviously with the e-power and then your transmission thing there. You still get that. But as I say, it's just the dials itself just disappear. So you can really, really change it to see how you feel. I must admit, I quite like it with either the 3 or the 5 gauge cluster. I quite like that. Very traditional Porsche. And then you've got your center information display here, which is, you've got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well, which is very, very good. And then you've got your kind of icons here, you see? So you've got all of these here, and they're really crisp and they're really clear. That's what I like about them. So the way Porsche have designed these is really good. So they are different kind of colours. The colours are vibrant, the colours are bright. It's easy to see, you know, at a glance. So whilst a lot of things are in the screen, so going into sort of like car settings, you know, to adjust, you know, sort of like, you know, if you want drive mode, chassis, different there. There's a different mode thing for that there, which we'll talk about when we're out driving it. But you know, you can do things through the screen itself, okay? But you don't have to in some respects. Your sport chronos there, your nav system there, and all the rest of it. So really very good in that sense. There's a third screen, which is in front of the passenger. Now I didn't realise this at first. I'm gonna be honest with you here. I didn't realise. I picked my wife up the other night from the station. We're getting in, and she does this really annoying thing when I've got my Spotify on. She'll sit there and go, "Don't like that song. Don't like that song. Don't like that song," and then she'll play 30 seconds of another song, go nah, and move it on, and it just drives me insane. I thought, how's she doing that? She's just pushed. What you can't realise is the third screen from the driver's side. You can't see it. You have to be in the passenger seat to see it. So that's a really good safety thing. So, you know, whilst a lot of manufacturers do these 3 screens, and if you look at, say, something like the Mercedes-Benz with its big hyper screen and its EQ models, you know, it's massive across. This you can't see from the driver's seat. You can't see the screen that's in front of the passenger. But you can have things up there like the Apple, you know, the CarPlay, the navigation, the trip computer, that type of thing. So the passenger can control all that whilst you're concentrating on driving. Just as long as I don't keep pressing the fast forward button on the Spotify, should be fine. Anyway, there we go. So that's the screens, that's it across there. And you can see what they've done is they've lowered this here, and this is much more upright, and it's to give the impression of space, and it really works. You know, I think the old car had a much more kind of sort of like raised console here. You know, so this has kind of opened up the front cockpit, and I do like that. I do like that at all. You get your upright kind of face vents here, and then sort of 2 lower ones here. And then you move down to this area here where you've got a wireless charging pad in here as well. And if I put my hand in there, it's cold because it's ventilated, so your phone doesn't get too hot. See, again, it's that nice wee attention to detail that I like. That's clever. And then you've got your climate control here, which is controlled by physical buttons. So adjusting your temperature up and down by these ones here. And then there are buttons here which are sort of like touch screens. Well, you think they are, but what they actually are is when you press them, the whole panel moves. So heated seats, so it's capacitive buttons. So, you know, there, so for the you know, for your air conditioning controls and things, flicking on the automatic climate. Brilliant. And then you've got a physical volume knob behind you for also your media. And you've also got physical controls on the steering wheel. Now the steering wheel is a beautiful wheel. I love this wheel. I drive a BMW iX2 and the wheel on it is one of the things I don't like about it. It's really thick. This is a beautifully thin-rimmed Porsche steering wheel. I really like this. It's just right, you know, and it's completely round. There's no flat bottom on it, you know, it's just completely round. You get your 3 spokes. You've got your just basic functionalities here for, you know, controlling sort of like volume and track search on this side, and then, you know, sort of like your instrumentation stuff on there. Cruise controls off a separate stock down there, and then you've got this little turny thing here, which does your driving modes. So I've just started the engine there, see, because it was in hybrid, and then e-power, and then there's an off-road mode. So I'll talk about them just briefly now. You basically get off-road, e-power, hybrid, sport, and sport plus. Okay, but I will discuss them more when we're out actually on the open road. No transmission lever here, it's up there now, again like Taycan. So park and then push down to go into drive, and then another one for manual, where you've got then the 2 paddles behind the steering wheel, all the way up for reverse, or P for park. Frees up more space, so you get a little cubby there now. You've also got your 2 cup holders there, plus a reasonable sized cubby in the sort of like the armrest there, and again nice deep door bends with rubber lined bottoms and carpeted sides, so excellent. And all the design is just nice and neat. It's just beautifully thought out, and the quality is off the scale. It's exactly what you expect from Porsche. You know, I mean, it is. It's as solid as a rock, this. You know, it feels like it's going to last a million years. You still get these 2 big handles here, you know, the big kind of grab handles there. And obviously you still got handles there as well. So if you are off-road and somebody's getting a bit panicky, then obviously they've got to hold on there. So there we go. Last thing I'll talk about is the seat in the driving position. The seat's excellent. You get good support down the seat, obviously electrically adjustable. They've got really nice support, especially underneath the thighs, which is what I quite like. I like support behind my knees. And then your whole driving position is, you know, dead ahead. You know, you've got this nice, as I say, thin spoke wheel. It's just big enough in diameter. There's none of the dashboard obscured at all. You can see absolutely everything. And good sized door mirror, so visibility is good as well. Even over the shoulder stuff, you know, you're looking back behind, you've got good over the shoulder visibility as well. So there we go. So that's the interior of the new Cayenne. So really big improvement. And not that there was much wrong with the last one, but I think, you know, the much more space. Really love the sort of the integration of technology in it. I mean, as I say, cars sometimes for me they can go too far. You know, you've got to delve into too many different things to change things and things. You don't have that in here. This is just the right amount of tech. The only thing is to say, if you've got a passenger who doesn't like your music, remember they have control of it from over there. Just be warned. But yeah, this centre console area here, how it's dropped, and as I say, it just frees up a bit more space. And then, as I say, the beautiful kind of integration of the screens and such a clear, crisp dashboard in front of you. I think it's an absolute winner. I really do. I love the interior of this car. Right, let's talk about engines now. If you go for a Cayenne, the base Cayenne, or this eHybrid, then they come with a 3-litre V6 turbocharged engine. The Cayenne S, GTS and Turbo have 4-litre turbocharged engines, and they're V8s, okay? So it's V6 in the 2 lead-in models, V8s for the rest of the range. The Cayenne S, the lead-in V8 and the Turbo you can have with plug-in hybrids. The GTS, however, doesn't have a hybridised system. So if it's just pure petrol you're after, then you're either the base V6 or the GTS for the V8, okay? All the rest are plug-in hybrids, okay. Interestingly, I think this could be the pick of the range. Now, I've not admittedly driven the really silly stuff, but I like this. This is quite a nice engine. It's not, it sounds okay, it sounds about right, I think. But what you basically get is, because it's got obviously the assistance with the electric motor, you've effectively almost got the power of the V8, but the economy of the V6. I'll explain. So this is just 470 horsepower, give or take a couple of horses between friends, okay? Which is made up of a 304 horsepower engine and an electric motor that produces just over 170 horsepower. So the two combined, you're about 470 horsepower. And that's to say it's only 4 brake horsepower shy of the basic 4 litre V8. So I think that's quite good. Now in terms of economy, if you listen to Porsche, they'll tell you that the thing has a claimed MPG of 188 miles per gallon. It doesn't. Let's be honest, it's not going to do that. You're probably looking more likely in somewhere in the kind of 30s, sort of like generally running around. And of course, with the hybridized system sort of like coming in, you might sort of like eke that up a little bit. But yeah, if you got 188 miles per gallon out of your Porsche Cayenne, then yeah, you're driving it wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Now, interestingly, when it comes to the battery system in the car, you have a bigger battery on the car now. That's one of the big changes with this kind of facelifted car. They now have a 21.8 kilowatt hour usable capacity. Now, that should give, according to WLTP figures, an electric only range of probably around about 45 miles. In fairness, again, WLTP figures are a load of nonsense. I'm seeing around about 34 to 36 miles of electric only running on it, but it's still not bad. If you think your local commute's maybe only just a few miles a day, you might never actually have the engine kick in on the car for the whole week, so that's not bad at all. Now, when it comes to charging the battery, because remember, as I say, this is a plug-in hybrid, so you plug it into your wall box at home or a public charger, okay? Plug-in hybrids don't have CCS, they don't have the combination thing, so it's just a Type 2 charger you get, like you get on your 7 kilowatt wall box. If you have faster 3-phase electricity at home and you have an 11 kilowatt wall box, or maybe at your office or something, the car has a standard onboard 11 kilowatt charger, which means you can replenish the battery in just 2 hours. If it's a more likely 7 kilowatt wall box that you have, then you're looking at 4 hours. Basically, that's what you're looking at to replenish the battery from flat to full. Now, maybe you haven't got a home wall box and maybe you're thinking about getting one, then take a look at Anderson EV, because that's Porsche's partner of choice when it comes to providing home wall box chargers. They're the premium home wall box chargers. Not only sort of like have they got an integrated cable, you know, so you don't have this cable you've got to wrap around, you sort of just leave it dangling. It integrates actually into the unit itself. It also has motion sense and lighting as well, so it's easier to see when you come home in the darker hours when you're getting the cable out and plugging the car in. You can also sort of like choose your own finishes on it as well. So as well as aluminium construction that it comes with, you can put a wood fascia in the front. You can even put a carbon fibre fascia on the front of it if you wanted. I think there's something like 200 odd different combinations you can have with them. So I mean, you can really tailor it to suit your home, which is one of the big things that I like about the Anderson charging units as well. Now, they also come with an integrated app which allows you to sort of program the charging unit to take advantage of low-cost electricity tariffs overnight, and each unit comes with a 7-year warranty as well. So if you are looking for a home wall box charger, Anderson EV, the proud sponsors of this video, and as I say, Porsche's partner of choice when it comes to providing home charging facilities. Right, let's get the car up on the open road and see how it performs. Right, so a quick reminder, you've got power output on this eHybrid model of 470 horsepower. And as I say, that's sort of like around about just over the 300 horsepower from a 3 litre V6 turbocharged engine, and around about 170 horsepower from an electric motor. And there's always a little bit of loss, it's not just as simple as adding the two together. So you're looking at 470 horsepower, which as I say is just shy of four horses shy of the basic 4 litre V8 turbo. So it's quite quick. I mean, 0 to 60 is 4.9 seconds, which to me is quick enough for this style of car. But it's more than that. It's more than just power and numbers. It's how it performs, and it's the way in which it can do different things. So at the moment, I've just started off and I'm driving out of my house and we're going down some country lanes. It's in e-power mode. So it's just running purely on electric power. That's it. So at the moment, it is an electric car. That's it. It's just being powered through the electric motor. The engine is not coming on. I'm doing 30, coming up to 40 miles an hour now, and the rev counter's not moving. That's it. Purely electric power. That's it. I've got this little drive mode button on the steering wheel, remember. So if I flip that now, let's go into hybrid mode, okay? So the car is now in hybrid mode. And what the car will now do is it will determine whether or not it needs the engine to help. Sorry, I'll just get past this cyclist. Yeah, see, here we go, past the cyclist, put my foot down. So I've activated kick down, the engine is sprung into life now to give me some extra power. So if I was on, say, I don't know, yeah, this little kind of back road here, and there was a tractor or, you know, a slow moving car or a cyclist, and you want to get past, you put your foot down. In the eHybrid mode, the car is now figuring out what power it needs. So it will kick in with the engine, or it will disconnect the engine and go back to just the electric running. If it's, they go back to just electric running now. So I'm under a light throttle load at the moment, 40 miles an hour, and it's running in E mode only. Yeah, even though it's in the hybrid. So that's what it does there. We then move round to sport. Now sport uses the engine as well as the electric power now. So I'm getting the full dollop of power now all of the time. That's what's basically happening there. Okay, so that's the third mode. And then the fourth one is if we go to Sport Plus. And that's when sort of like things are really sharpened up and things are really sort of like, you know, the power's all there, you know, sort of, you've got sort of like slightly sharper kind of steering response. You've also got adaptive dampers. So the Cayennes all come now with adaptive dampers. So this will, in Sport Plus, this is firming up the dampers and making it a really quite sporty sort of like car to drive. You can go a stage further than that by moving the transmission from the D mode into the M mode. So by holding the transmission lever down, I've now got control of the gearbox via the two paddles behind the steering wheel. So here we go, see? It's still in third, it's not upshifting. Now it upshifts. So it waits for me to upshift, okay? There's fifth, sixth. So it's an 8-speed Tiptronic gearbox that the car has with your manual override as you've always kind of had with the Porsches, okay? So that's what all the driving modes do. What's impressive with the Cayenne is the way in which, because let's be honest, this is a big car, you know, it's a big kind of E-segment SUV that competes with, you know, the BMW X6, the Mercedes GLE Coupe, that type of car. It's over 2 tons, but it's just shy of 500 horsepower, and you can chuck this thing around like you wouldn't believe. It will absolutely just turn in on a sixpence. And the first thing I want to talk about is the steering, because this is fabulous, this steering. Absolutely fabulous. It's got a much thinner rim than, say, like my BMW X2, which I really, you know, I always find a bit of a problem with that car. I like this beautifully thin rim steering wheel. It's very tactile. You feel exactly where the wheels are. You know exactly what's happening. And turning the car into a bend is just the roll of a wrist. That's all it is. You also get, with the sport chassis with this car, rear axle steering. Now, oddly enough, it's not sort of like opposite sort of like steering as such for low speed parking maneuver, but it's at high speed where it just helps, and it just helps with turning and balancing the corner and just getting the car set up right. And it's just beautiful the way this car feeds back to you. I am carrying some speed through these bends that in a car like, say, my Jeep Grand Cherokee would have me in the hedges over there. I can't believe how well the body control is in this car. Right, here we go, into this roundabout. Let's have a quick change of direction. It just stays flat. It's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. The body control of this thing is immense. But when you don't want any of that, you scroll it back, you stick it in the hybrid mode, and everything just calms down again. Back to drive. And what we have now is this very quiet, very refined, very luxurious, nice riding, big luxury car. It just does everything. It really does. I'm just so impressed with this. And that's what I mean. I'm not sure. And I know there'll be some people who say, oh, you've got to have it with a V8. I don't think you've got to have it with a V8 at all. Because I think this is actually the really nice one. I like this. I like the way it's got this kind of real Jekyll and Hyde character about this V6 hybrid. I really do. The engine's not even on. And the other interesting thing is the ride quality, because whilst it's got those big 21-inch alloys, and they've got some big serious steamroller rubber on this car, the Pirelli tires that are on the car, they've done it and they've reduced the pressure in each tyre, so there's not as much pressure in each tyre, and that helps with the kind of compliancy of the tyre. The ride quality is superb, absolutely superb. It's comfortable, it's quiet, it's well balanced, there's no body roll when you're in a fast corner and bend. The loudest noise I can hear now, and this is the engine's on now, the engine's kicked in, you can hear a tiny little bit of the tyres on the road, and I do mean a tiny little bit of the tyres on the road. That is not loud at all. Porsche's engineering is just off the chart good. This is an exceptionally good car. And as I say, I think for 99% of people that are in the market for this style of car, this V6 eHybrid does it all. It just does everything. You know, my wife, she drives, you know, sort of like up to the local railway station. If she has to go into the London office, she drives to the local railway station. You know, this car with her would never ever see the engine coming on. And yet when we go up to Scotland to see my mum, you know, it's delivering, you know, a comfortable, relaxing place to do a long motorway drive in with reasonable good economy. I'm not going to tell you it's good economy, but reasonably good economy. And yet, you know, and again, if I was to sort of take it and into a local town or drive into London for a meeting or whatever, I can do the best of both worlds. I've got the engine power there for when I'm on the motorway into London, and then when I get to London, it flips to the electric power, and I've got a comfortable, quiet, easy to manoeuvre car. What more do you want? All right, let's talk about price. Well, it's never going to be a cheap car, is it? Let's be honest. So prices for Cayenne now start around about the £75,000 for the base kind of SUV. You pay a little bit more of a premium to get the coupe. Of course you do, you pay more for less. That obviously makes sense. Anyway, if you jump up to the eHybrid, like this one, in the coupe form, then your starting price is around about £82,000. This particular car that I have has a few options on it, so that's taken the price up to £92,500. So as I say, not inexpensive, is it? You can, however, go really crazy by going for the Turbo GT right at the very, very top, and that starts at £164,000 before any options. Now, all I will say is this, whilst I'm not going to start saying this is good value for money in some respects, with more and more sort of like these kind of sports car manufacturers getting into this SUV game, which pretty much, let's face it, Porsche kind of started the ball rolling with the Cayenne. You know, I mean, even, you know, Aston Martin with the DBX, you know, Bentley Bentayga, Ferrari, whisper it, Perasangui, they can tell me it's a sort of like just a four-door kind of GT car. It looks like a crossover SUV as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, they're way in excess of that price, of that 164 grand. You know, they're you know, £200,000, £300,000 plus. So whilst I'm not going to call the Cayenne a bargain, maybe the original one isn't quite as expensive as we first thought, given how good the car actually is. So if you're in the marketplace for a Cayenne coupe, what else is out there that you might also want to consider? Well, from Germany, there's BMW with the X6, Mercedes-Benz with the GLE coupe, and of course Audi with its Q8. If you look towards the UK, then you've got Range Rover with the Range Rover Sport, maybe a high-powered Velar, but I'd be probably more inclined in terms of size to say Range Rover Sport. It's certainly more the marketplace where I think is aimed at the Cayenne. But bear in mind, as I say, Porsche is a sports car manufacturer, and there's plenty of legacy sports car manufacturers moving into the space that, dare I suggest, Porsche created with the Cayenne. Aston Martin with the DBX, Ferrari with its Purosangue, Bentley with the Bentayga, more luxury, but yeah, it's still sporty, and of course Lamborghini with the Urus. So you do certainly have plenty of choice in this market sector. There will still be some purists out there who are still offended by the Cayenne and the fact that it wears a Porsche badge on it. And that's fine, because there's still going to be some people out there who just don't get SUVs. Not everyone can be the same. And whilst it wasn't the first of the SUVs, the Cayenne was the first of the sports SUVs that are now built everywhere by everyone. But what it did more than that. It brought sort of like Porsche's brand attributes of performance and handling into a brand new arena that they had never been in before. And by doing so, brought in new customers into a brand and retained some customers into the company. And that is no doubt, in my mind, a commercial success, as we have now seen, because 20 years later, the car is the best-selling Porsche in its entire range. It outsells its sports car range by quite some margin. And it's always adapted to give the market what it wants. That's the clever thing with the Cayenne. When they wanted big, fast, turbocharged V8s, when excess was everything, then it gave it to them. When it wanted sort of like fuel-sipping, frugal diesel engines, it gave it to them. And now we're in a world of electrification. It's giving it to them. And it's this model, this 3-litre V6 eHybrid, that I think could be the sweet spot in the Cayenne range. Because let's be honest, what you have here is the sort of like the power and performance of one of those V8s, but with the lower running costs of a V6, and dare I suggest the acceptability and the environmental aspect of electrification. As Taylor Swift will tell us, haters are going to hate, but there's no denying that the Cayenne has been an absolute success for the company, proving yet again that its philosophy of evolution rather than revolution works. Thank you for watching this new car review on House of Cars. As always, please make sure you are subscribed to the new House of Cars channel. Then once you've done that, press the little bell button down below, because that's the way you get notified when our next video is uploaded and it has gone live. If you have enjoyed this video, then please make sure that you do give it a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you have a Cayenne? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Have you had them in the past and moved away from them for a particular reason? Then please do let us know that as well. Are you interested in this new one? Does the hybrid model tickle you? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Now, if you're interested in electric cars, then remember what you want to be watching is Auto EV, because that's my channel where we just do purely electric cars. So if it's just electric cars you're interested in, or you want to know more about electric cars, then head across to Auto EV. But for new cars or old cars, small cars or big cars, slow cars or fast cars, you'll find them all here in the House of Cars. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.